Oh. Welcome to the third Wednesday Vesper service, sponsored by the Unitarian Universalist Multiracial Unity Action Council. We shorten our long name to UUMUAC, which we pronounce UMIAC. The sermon tonight is called Say Shibboleth with the Reverend Craig Moro. The Reverend Moro is a graduate of the University of Chicago and Starr King School for the Ministry. He's lived and studied in India, Singapore, Thailand, the Netherlands, and Japan. He has served churches in California, Illinois, and the Pacific Northwest, and is a founding member of the Tri-Cities Interfaith Alliance in Washington. He now lives in Portland, Oregon, where he serves the Y East UU congregation half-time. He will be retiring at the end of this month. His sermons are often informed by readings in the original languages of religious texts, including Arabic, Hebrew, and Tamil, and are known for blending scholarship with plain speech and a sense of humor.
Thank you, Richard.
Our next service, the third Wednesday in September, the sermon title is Be Ours a Religion, and the preacher will be Dr. Matthew Shear, who's a lay preacher from Massachusetts. He has worked summers for years and years at the First Parish in Wayland and spent 2 years as a lay preacher at the UU Church in Rockland, Mass. I want to admit a bunch of people who've just come in here. And light a chalice. We gather this hour as people of faith, having sorrows and joys and needs and gifts. We light this beacon of hope as a sign of our quest for truth and meaning, and in celebration of the life we share together. Our opening hymn is Gather the Spirit. Please stay muted. This will be performed by the chancel choir of the First Unitarian Church of Oakland, California. I forgot to share the screen. I was looking at it, but none of you could see it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I regularly screw up. Try again.
Yes, Richard, but we got to look at you doing that.
Yeah. It is the mission of the Unitarian Universalist Multiracial Unity Action Council to carry out and foster anti-racist and multiracial unity activities, both within and outside the Unitarian Universalist Association, education, bearing witness, and other actions, and expansion of our membership, both within and outside the walls of our congregations. We also seek to defend our UU principles against those who seek to undermine them. We envision our congregations, denomination, and society as not being colorblind, but color appreciative, as judging and treating members of the world's rank and file by the content of their character, not the color of their skin or their cultural heritage, and as treasuring diversity in the context of the beloved community. We call this vision multiracial Unitarian Universalism. This is the mountaintop, the goal we seek. This is the prize on which we try to keep our eyes, the unity of light and dark-skinned people of the world. And now I give you Reverend Craig Moro.
Thanks so much, Richard. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Very good, very good. Well, no one knows what color the people were, what their complexions were like, who I'll be talking about today. I'll be reading from ancient Hebrew sources. What did those people look like? We don't really know. We know that there was a big controversy a few years ago when someone did a reconstructed face of Jesus. And a lot of people thought he didn't look enough like James Taylor. He kind of looked like a Mediterranean man, probably of his time or even of today. So that was a shock for people, but it's really not important. Well, the book of Judges in the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible is filled with stories of illegitimate, or what we might call semi-legitimate children, people who know they sort of belong somewhere in the human community, but aren't sure where or how. That's why I find stories from this book particularly relevant to the situation of so many of us today. I think I'm part of things. I think I'm a real member of this community or that one, but I can't seem to get a solid grip on why or how or whether I can count on any real, lasting welcome. Why is that? Is it just me, or is there something more? We read in Judges 11, Jephthah the Gileadite was a great warrior. He was the son of Gilead by a prostitute. But Gilead also had a wife who bore him several sons, and when they grew up, they drove Jephthah away. They said to him, "You have no inheritance in our father's house. You are another woman's son." So Jephthah, to escape his brothers, went away and settled in the land of Tob and swept up a number of idle men who followed him. But when the Gileadites are attacked by a foreign people called the Ammonites, the elders of the land suddenly find that they need Jephthah and his idle men to help them. Jephthah replies, "You drove me from my father's house in hatred. Why come to me now when you're in trouble?" The elders swear to God that if Jephthah and his idlers will help out, they will make him lord and commander over the people. Jephthah agrees to the deal, then makes his own vow to God. "If you will deliver the Ammonites into my hands, then the first creature that comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return shall be the Lord's. I will offer that as a whole offering." He'll sacrifice the first living thing that comes out of his house as a whole offering. That is, he'll kill it and burn it up for God. Few in Israel at the time would have said it's wrong to make this kind of promise, a whole offering in thanks for a whole success. So Jephthah achieves his successes, routing the Ammonites with great slaughter. And then he goes home. But when Jephthah came to his house, who should come out of his house to meet him with tambourines and dances but his daughter? And she his only child, he had no other, neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he rent his clothes and said, "Alas, my daughter, you have broken my heart. Such trouble you've brought upon me. I've made a vow to the Lord, and I cannot go back." She replied, "Father, you've made a vow to the Lord. Do to me what you have solemnly vowed, since the Lord has avenged you on your enemies. But Father, grant me this one favor. For 2 months let me be, that I may roam the hills with my companions and mourn that I must die a virgin." Please let this scene sink in while we sing. Hymn number 188, "Come, Come, Whoever You Are."
Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of evening, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come,
Thank you. I'm sorry that we had a little problem with the audio, but that's just going to happen sometimes. Of course, that's a beautiful poem by Rumi, uh, one of the rival in Persian. But at that point, they weren't rivals, not at the time of the Book of Judges. So when Jephthah came to his house, who should come out of his house to meet him with tambourines and dances but his daughter, and she his only child? He had no other, neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he rent his clothes and said, "Alas, you've broken my heart. Such trouble you've brought to me. I've made a vow to the Lord and cannot go back." Jephthah thought he was making a safe bet when he vowed to sacrifice the first creature that came out to meet him, expecting it would be a dog or a chicken, or at most a servant, who might have been a foreigner, so really no big loss. But here comes his daughter, his only child. We never learn her name, but out she comes with tambourines and dances. The Hebrew actually says, "Betufim ubimecholoth," literally, in tambourines and dances. How many tambourines can you play at once? Or do how many dances? This is how the Bible evokes her perfect energy, a whirl of motion. She wants to delight her father in a display of herself that's part womanly, part childlike, and pure music. She's at that glorious in-between stage of life so many of us as parents have witnessed. So for 1 minute, it's daddy, 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 my big, beautiful daddy, you won, you're home, you won. The next minute, she soberly accepts that she really is the one who's brought trouble on her damn fool of a father and broken his heart. She asks only to be given some time to roam freely with her friends, to mourn that she will die a virgin. The Hebrew word clearly indicates someone who has not known intercourse, not just someone who's unmarried. When she returns, Jephthah kills her. She is the Lord's, and this is how Jephthah decides his Lord must want her. Keep her in your thoughts as we leave her for now, along with all the beautiful young creatures who can be destroyed when a leader feels he must stick to his word no matter what. The first creature that comes to meet me shall be the Lord's. I will offer that as a whole offering. That was just the right kind of thing for a man of Jephthah's time to say, but he didn't say it in just the right way. Surely there was a way to keep his word in spirit, if not to the letter, but then we lose our story. Jephthah first misspeaks and then kills his daughter, and we can take his word that he has also wounded himself grievously. He has said the right thing in the wrong way, and now he has learned something. But what has he learned? Every wound I suffer has the potential to teach me compassion for those who feel a hurt like mine. But there's also a dark side to this education in pain. As I learn what hurts, what really hurts me, I am also shown the possibility of inflicting a hurt like this on others. I remember how it hurt when I lost my home or my family as I tear down your house or shoot your children, and this gives me not pause but extra precision. Now Jephthah thinks, I said the right thing in the wrong way and lost my dearest love. Is there some way I can turn this wound into a weapon? Jephthah soon gets his opportunity. As we heard before, though he had not at first been accepted as a member of his father's community, he's now the leader of these people, called Gileadites. A related tribe called the Ephraimites resents the fact that Jephthah did not invite them to take part in his war against the Ammonites, whom he'd routed earlier. Why didn't you ask us along so we could get our share of the plunder? Jephthah replies that he didn't ask for their help because he was sure they'd have refused or been too scared. Now them's fighting words. So the Ephraimites attack the Gileadites, and two branches of the same Hebrew family enter into civil war. Here's the Bible. Jephthah then mustered all the men of Gilead and fought Ephraim, and the Gileadites defeated them. The Gileadites seized the fords of the Jordan and held them against Ephraim. When any Ephraimite who had escaped begged leave to cross, the men of Gilead asked him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" And if he said no, they would retort, "Say Shibboleth." He would say Sibboleth, and because he could not pronounce the word properly, they seized him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. At that time, 42,000 men of Ephraim lost their lives. Jephthah has now forged his own wound into a weapon. He lost the love of his life when he said the right thing in the wrong way, and so lost his daughter. Now 42,000 of his fellow Israelites, not foreigners, mind you, not others, will lose their lives because they can't distinguish between the sounds we write with S or SH. That's not uncommon. My son had trouble with these sounds until he was at least 6 or 7. Shh, listen, Shibboleth, Sibboleth. If Jephthah's men had caught him at the fords of the Jordan, would they have killed him? Would they have killed my son? How old a boy would be called a man of Ephraim? 13, like for Jews today? Presumably the Ephraimites said virtually everything else the same as the Gileadites do, so they had to dig up this word to flush out the difference. How would this test go for a recent immigrant to the region who's perfectly loyal to Jephthah, the judge, but still says one word or two not quite the right way from our point of view? How about one of our own with a slight speech impediment? Or what if you're a person of mixed background, like Jephthah himself, with a mother from a different community than that of your father, and you still carry a trace of mom in the way you use your tongue? Jephthah thinks he's making a safe bet with his mortal pronouncements again. He memorializes the way he destroyed his daughter in the way he outs and destroys the Ephraimites, doesn't he? They die for saying something almost, but not quite right. This is Jephthah's legacy to his community. His story ends abruptly after the slaughter of the Ephraimites, who simply couldn't shh like they should. Jephthah, the judge, was judge over Israel for 6 years. When he died, he was buried in his own city in Gilead, the Bible says. At last he's found a place of his own in the city that once outed him as a prostitute's son. They gave him a tomb. He gave them a weapon, a way of casting people out that's as effective today as it was back then, the Shibboleth. The dictionary defines it as a word used as a test for detecting foreigners, to show who's one of us and who's just an other. The definition traces the word back to this ancient story and suggests a practice that's still very much in use today. I'm sure Jephthah wasn't the first to use a shibboleth to decide who's in or out, just the first to choose that particular word for the purpose. Another famous shibboleth was used during what has come to be known as the Sicilian Vespers. It was the year 1282 during the occupation of Sicily by the Normans. A Norman soldier was accused of molesting a Sicilian woman. The people rose up at Vespers on Easter Monday, and a bloody massacre of Normans followed. The Sicilians would hold up a chickpea and ask anyone whom they suspected of being a Norman, "Tell us what this is." If you couldn't say "ciciri" in precisely the Sicilian way, you'd have been killed. I can't say it perfectly myself, but I felt a little pride when I first heard this story. My family on my dad's side is Neapolitan and Sicilian, and it feels good to know that swarthy Southerners sometimes do get the better of fair-skinned Northern oppressors. Until I stopped to think, my mother's family was of partly Scandinavian background. Wouldn't they have been treated as Normans? Then what about me? Could I trill those double R's in just the right way, not too soft and not like I'm trying too hard? Try it, but remember, they didn't let you practice on your own chickpea before the test. Try this. Ciciri. More recently, the word for parsley was used by border guards between Haiti and the Dominican Republic as a shibboleth to mark certain people for mistreatment or death. You'll find many other examples, but shibboleths aren't only used in large-scale political conflicts. I was once a candidate for minister of a UU fellowship in California's Central Valley. At least one member of the search committee didn't really want to minister at all and had joined the committee to basically prevent it from choosing anyone. He owned some almond orchards and asked if I knew how real local folks like him pronounced almond. It's almond. I knew because my wife's from Chico. But that's not the word that got me. I gave a sermon in which I used the term God more than once, not as something to believe in, but as a word whose power we should consider. After the service, I went out a side door to get something from my car and passed a gaggle of folks with the rancher in the middle and one woman who was practically hissing, "I heard him use that word 5 times!" She didn't see me, luckily. I guess she couldn't. See me, I mean. I was not called to stay on as their minister. I've got my flaws, but I think it was mostly that one word that I really had dared to use 5 times. Maybe I shouldn't have used it. And I shouldn't call a group of people a gaggle. I know. That's a term meant to be used for geese, a family of birds that honk or hiss to make things that they don't like go away. Once when I was a chaplain in an inner city emergency room, I stopped to check a patient's name on the door before entering the treatment cubicle. It was handwritten in high-speed medical scrawl, and I thought it said Nelson. I knocked and entered saying, "Good morning, Mr. Nelson. I'm the chaplain. How are you feeling?" He asked me why I wanted to know, and I told him I was concerned about him. He snapped, "Is that right? What's my name then?" I asked, "Aren't you Mr. Nelson?" And he shot back, "Melson. My name's Melson." I was not invited to stay on as Mr. Melson's minister either. I wonder how many times he'd pulled the same routine. I suppose I could have told him how people get my name wrong too, and I've even gotten mail addressed to Craig Moron. But I was young and too rattled just then. At least I didn't have to live with him at home or work or church, but you know, somebody else probably did. And you know what else? I'm tired of living one word, one shade of pronunciation, one misstep, one mistake away from being shut out, cut out, or written off. I'm tired of having to do the same in order to preserve my own position in some in-group. I bet most of you are tired of it too. There seem to be a growing number of shibboleths to negotiate these days. We hunger for membership in a community, but often find that membership is framed so narrowly. We choke trying to swallow what it takes to be woke or whatever, growing ever more socially isolated, yet less socially safe. Your turn to be canceled or censored or censured might come next. You suddenly find you've said something, the wrong word or the right word in the wrong way. You thought you were doing okay, cheering everybody on in dances and tambourines, but something tells you that now #you are unwelcome. You can't cross the river. Your free movement among people is blocked. Your invitation to the table is canceled. I've had enough of shibboleths, haven't you? What was a shibboleth anyway before it was a weapon? Was it just some nonsense word Jephthah made up to catch the Ephraimites? If you go digging for meaning, you'll find a couple of possibilities. One is an ear of grain. Think about it. Jephthah's men could have held up an ear of wheat and asked whoever wanted to cross the River Jordan, "What's this?" That way they could avoid giving the others a clue about how the word should be pronounced. Good trick, like holding up that chichiri back in Sicily. The other possible meanings all have to do with water. Shibboleth can mean a river, a torrent. One source that I checked insisted that shibboleth means a freshet. Now that's an English word that I had to look up in a dictionary, where I found 2 more possible meanings. A freshet can mean a sudden rise in the level of a stream or river caused by rain or melting snow. A sudden abundance, but not a flood. A sudden abundance, but not a flood. What a wonderful thing. It can also mean a stream of fresh water running into a salt sea or ocean. The small water we can drink running into the great water we admire. Another wonderful meaning. Think of what it must have meant to people who lived in an arid region like ancient Israel, and still means in dry places today. We can imagine Jephthah's gang of idle men now become real soldiers, stopping a stranger at the fords of the Jordan River with a word that can mean grain or water, with what should be used to make bread. They use to make corpses. They should have learned from Jephthah's daughter, who mourned that she would die a virgin and so never make love. We say that, don't we? Making love, like making bread. They should have learned from her, not from Jephthah. And yes, I suppose I am still saying something like make love, not war, after all these years since that phrase was supposed to have become a joke. Hashtag okay boomer. I'm also saying that a community should use its intimacy, its insider's special knowledge to make bread, not passwords. To make bread, not passwords. I know of a congregation that has a celebration around Thanksgiving when people bring in different breads representing their stories, their origins, and their travels around the world. They tell the story behind each loaf, then share it in a common meal. What a sweet practice. A safe way of making public love. It's a kind of intercourse, yes. For to share the bread of another is again to share our bodies, to take of another's hands, their work, their warmth kneaded into dough with the breathing yeast and left to rise. Shh, shh, or is it sss? Then to take all that into our own bodies and let it become part of who we are. That's what it means to share bread. I don't know what's the right word to honor this intercourse of grain and flesh and water except the word yes. Yes, this is the way we must go if we are to cross the river one more time, keep the course together, and each find our way to the table, where we can say Shibboleth or Sibboleth to mean both seeds and water, where we might raise our hands to pull bread from a common loaf, but never, never by hand or weapon, by word or doctrine, to pull each other apart. Amen.
Thank you, Craig. Our mission is to promote multiracial unity in our congregations and beyond, using the 7 principles of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We can't help but notice that the greatest obstacle to multiracial unity in our congregations is the so-called anti-racist, but actually quite racist ideology that has captured the minds of a controlling majority of our national officials in the seminaries and in the Ministers Association and the UUA itself. It's their so-called anti-racism is on the surface, of course, anti-white racist, but in a subtle and really profound way, it's anti-Black racist. And we have not set out to become the enemies of the UUA. We don't think of ourselves as the enemies of the UUA, though they think of us as their enemy because we just reject this white supremacy culture thing that they are so wedded to. That's really, they care about that more than anti-racism. They care about asserting that more than they care about fighting racism, I think. Anyway, if you'd like to join us, we try not to waste your money. It's $30 a year. If you go to our website, you can see how to join.
Well,
Right.
in closing, I want to return before ending to Jephthah's daughter, who asked his leave to go to the hills and mourn with her friends. We hear that she went with her companions and mourned her virginity in the hills. At the end of 2 months, she came back to her father, and he fulfilled the vow he had made. She died a virgin. It became a tradition that the daughters of Israel should go year by year and commemorate the fate of Jephthah's daughter, 4 days in every year. My poor girl, my poor little dancer. Jephthah gets his tomb and his name carved there so we can try to pronounce it. She gets a celebration in the hills, 4 days every year. We don't know her name. We don't have that one right word to describe her, a word to say the right way or the wrong one. But we do have her music, her dances, and her story. And she has a place in our hearts, in our memory. Not for 4 days, but forever and ever. Amen.
Please join me, but please stay muted. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance. Oh. There. And now we have a completely open conversation on any subject that you like.
I want to say how much I enjoyed your singing, Richard. That just broke my heart wide open. And I am very happy that you're here to lead the dance with us along with Craig today.
Thank you.
We have missed tonight Jim Scott, the UU songwriter, gives a concert every week on YouTube and on his website at 7 o'clock Wednesday night. and the theme varies from week to week. Tonight, I think it was about the boomers. But it's at the same time as our worship service. So. But I urge you all to look in on him Wednesdays at 7.
Is it possible that that is recorded anywhere that we
Oh, yes.
could find it?
He posts the recordings after the concert on YouTube, so you can find them. Just search for Jim Scott.
Is that Central Time, 7?
Yes.
Hi. I was wondering if, I think it's Richard, wanted to share more about this racism issue that they're raising money for. I would be interested in hearing a little bit if you'd like to take time to do that. Thank you.
What racism?
Oh, you were talking about the membership tonight for $30, and you were talking about one group caring more about, I don't know, some white issue or something. If you wanted to just explain that more, I'd be interested in hearing more. Thank you. And I loved your singing. Thank you.
The organization that sponsors this service is called the Unitarian Universalist Multiracial Unity Action Council. And our purpose is to foster multiracial unity in UU congregations, using the 7 principles. And we, to our great surprise, have found ourselves in a kind of war with the UUA, which claims to want multiracial unity also, but in ways that seem to us very wrong. It seems to us that what the UUA is doing is certain to make racism in our congregations worse. And so I was saying that if you're concerned about this issue, you might consider joining us. You might, whether you pay $30 and join or not, you might, if you just look at our website, you'll see lots of articles and information about this issue. We're finding ourselves in the awkward situation of opposing the national denomination because we feel they're terribly mistaken in their approach to promoting multiracial unity in our congregations. Who has his hands up? Finley.
Yes, I'm sorry I'm late. Just got through seeing this very powerful film that celebrates multiracial unity entitled Elvis. Quite a historical biographical reality. First, I want to commend Brother Craig on deconstructing the Shibboleth metaphor and Jephthah's daughter. Has always been a powerful image of what religion can do to brutalize people in the name of God. Oh, and of course, Jephthah's daughter, who is a sacrificial lamb, as it were, unknown in name, but her experience as the last sacrifice, human sacrifice in Israeli history. I think that's the same woman. Answering my sister's question, we have committed ourselves to recapturing the spirit of 1965, when Black and white folks went down to Selma, Alabama, and Black and white folks died opposing the old segregation at that time. And it's with great sadness and pain we watch our present day UUA leadership, and some churches will not allow us to have any publicity or presence in their services because of our commitment to multiracial Unitarian Universalism. So the $30 membership fee helps us with our work, production of literature. We all are volunteers. No one gets paid yet, although once we get bigger, we may need an executive director. And we're also planning an international conference against racism with a heavy emphasis on Zoom in October. So you would think that such a vision would be welcomed by the UUA leadership. But it's a leadership that is now wanting to get rid of Article 2. And I would just suggest, whether you're new tonight or old, take a deep read of Article 2, for it is foundational to our vision of Unitarian Universalism.
You mean
And the main
Article
emphasis of our
2
work is to make sure that they go.
Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, yeah.
Yes, the Article 2 of UUA. That's when they're going to be changing in 2024 for the bad. So the $30 fee, we have to say, in all honesty, if you join tonight, your membership will only last until December, but what the heck, is a $30 donation, and then January you rejoin again, you get the whole year. So come aboard, see what we're doing, and the issue of racism is our new Shibboleth. The new Shibboleth is called the 8th principle. If you don't get the 8th principle right, you will not be accepted as a UUA. So that's the new Shibboleth. It's called the 8th principle. If you don't do it right, you're no longer considered a UU, as we're finding out here in Chicago.
Mhm. Joyce,
Good evening, and thank you very much, Craig, for that sermon. It was an interesting concept, and I'm trying to figure out in our own congregation what our shibboleth is. And I'm working hard. We're in the midst of a serious conflict here that will result in a winner and a loser in about a week, which is a crazy system because no one will win. But what I'm learning is to be clear that I don't know that they are wrong. I just know that they aren't for sure right. That it's their self-righteousness that I have trouble with, that intolerance for any other vision. I don't know that their system isn't going to get us where we want to go. It hasn't actually played out yet. I doubt it, but I don't know that anymore. We have a song that we just replayed at a sermon here at QUF that was, you don't know the answer and neither do I. And I keep saying that to myself. None of us knows the answer. So that was my thought, but thank you, Craig.
Well, thank you. And that's the beauty of these stories, these great ancient stories, is that there's no difference between the Ephraimites and the Gileadites. These are not